Miss Katy-Did and Miss Cricket by Harriet Beecher Stowe. Miss Katy-Did sat on a branch on a flowering azalea in her best suit of fine green and silver, with wings of point lace from Mother Nature's finest web. Miss Katy was on the very highest possible spirits because her gallant cousin, Colonel Katy-Did, had looked in to make her a morning visit. It was a fine morning, too, which goes for as much among the Katy-Dids as among men and women. It was in fact a morning that Miss Katy thought must have been made on purpose for her to enjoy herself in. There had been a patter of rain the night before, which had kept the leaves awake talking to each other till nearly morning. By dawn the small winds had blown brisk little puffs and whisked the heavens clear and bright with their tiny wings, as you have seen Susan clear away the cobwebs in your mamma's parlor. So now there were often only left 1,000 blinking, burning water drops, hanging like convex mirrors at the end of each leaf, and Miss Katy admired herself in each one. Certainly I am a pretty creature, she said to herself, and when the gallant colonel said something about being dazzled by her beauty, she only tossed her head and took it as quite a matter of course. The fact is, my dear colonel, she said, I am thinking of giving a party, and you must help me make out the lists. My dear, you make me the happiest of Katy-Dids. Now, said Miss Katy-Did, drawing an azalea leaf toward her, let me see, whom shall we have? The fireflies, of course. Everybody wants them. They're so brilliant. A little unsteady, to be sure, but quite in the higher circles. Yes, we must have the fireflies, echoed the colonel. When then, the butterflies and the moths. Now there's a trouble. There's such an everlasting tribe of those moths, and if you invite dull people, they're always sure all to come, every one of them. Still, if you have the butterflies, you can't leave out the moths. Old Mrs. Moth had been laid up lately with a gastric fever, and that may keep 2 or 3 of Mrs. Moth at home, said the colonel. Whatever could give the old lady such a turn, said Miss Katy. I thought she never was sick. I suspect it's high living. I understand she and her family ate a whole ermine cape last month, and it disagreed with them. For my part, I can't conceive how the moths can live as they do, said Miss Katy, with a face of disgust. Why, I could no more eat worsted and fur as they do. That is quite evident from the fairy-like delicacy of your appearance and the colonel. One can see that nothing so gross or material has ever entered into your system. I'm sure, said Miss Katy. Mamma says she don't know what does keep me alive. Half a dewdrop and a little bit of nicest parts of rose leaf, I assure you, only last me for a day. But we are forgetting our list. Let's see, the fireflies, butterflies, moths, the bees must come, I suppose. The bees are a worthy family, said the colonel. Worthy enough, but dreadfully humdrum, said Miss Katy. They never talk about anything but honey and housekeeping. Still, they are a class of people one cannot neglect. Well then, there's the bumblebees. Oh, I dote on them. General Bumble is one of the most dashing, brilliant fellows of the day. I think he is shockingly corpulent, said Miss Colonel Katy-Did. Not all pleased to hear him praised, don't you? I don't know, but he is a little stout, said Miss Katy. But so distinguished and elegant in his manner, something quite martial and breezy about him. Well, if you invite the bumblebees, you must have the hornets. Those spiteful hornets, I detest them. Nevertheless, dear Miss Katy, one does not like to offend the hornets. No, one can't. There are those 5 Mrs. Hornets, dreadful old maids, all full of spite as they can live. You may be sure they will every one come to be looking about to make spiteful remarks. Put down the hornets, though. How about the mosquitoes, said the colonel. Those horrid mosquitoes, they're dreadfully plebeian. Can't one cut them? Well, Miss Katy, said the colonel, if you ask my candid opinion as a friend, I should say not. There's young Mosquito, who graduated last year, has gone into literature and is connected with some of our leading papers, and they say he carries the sharpest pen of all the writers. It won't do to offend him, and I suppose we must have his old aunts and the 6 of his sisters, and all his dreadfully common relations. It is a pity, said the colonel, but one must pay one's tax to society. Just as the moment the conference was interrupted by a visitor, Miss Keziah Cricket, who came in with her work bag on her arm to ask a subscription for a poor family of ants. I just had their house hoed up in a clearing, the garden walks. How stupid of them, said Katy, not to know better than to put their house in the garden walk. That's just like those ants. Well, they are in great trouble. All their stores destroyed, and their father killed, cut quite in two by a hoe. How very shocking. I don't like to hear such disagreeable things. It affects my nerves terribly. Well, I'm sure I haven't anything to give. Mamma said yesterday she was sure she didn't know how our bills were to be paid, and there's my green satin and point lace yet to come home. And Miss Katy-Did shrugged her shoulders and affected to be very busy with Colonel Katy-Did, in just the way that young ladies sometimes do when they wish to signify to visitors that they had better leave. Little Miss Cricket perceived how the case stood, and so hopped briskly off, without giving herself even time to be offended. Poor extravagant little thing, she said to herself. It was hardly worth while to ask her. Pray, shall you invite the Crickets? Said Colonel Katy-Did. Who, I? Why, Colonel, what a question. Invite the Crickets. Of what can you be thinking? And shall you not ask the locusts and the grasshoppers? Certainly the locusts, of course, a very old and distinguished family, and the grasshoppers are pretty well, and ought to be asked. But we must draw a line somewhere. And the Crickets, why, it's shocking even to think of. I thought they were nice, respectable people. Oh, perfectly nice and respectable. Very good people, in fact, so far as that goes. But then you must see the difficulty. My dear cousin, I am afraid you must explain. Why, their color, to be sure, don't you see? Oh, said the colonel, that's it. Is it? Excuse me, but I've been living in France, where these distinctions are wholly unknown, and I have not yet got myself in the train of fashionable ideas here. Well, then let me teach you, said Miss Katy. You know, we Republicans go for no distinctions except those created by nature herself, and we found our rank upon color, because that is clearly a thing that none has any hand in but our Maker, you see. Yes, but who decides what color shall be reigning color? I'm surprised to hear the question. The only true color, the proper color, one, is our color, to be sure. A lovely pea green, in the precise shade on which to found our aerostatic distinction. But then we are liberal. We associate with the moths, who are gray, with the butterflies, who are blue and gold colored, and the grasshoppers, yellow and brown, and society would become dreadfully mixed if it were not fortunately ordered that the Crickets are black as jet. The fact is that a class to be looked down upon is necessary to all elegant society, and if the Crickets were not black, we could not keep them down, because as everybody knows, they're often a great deal cleverer than we are, that have a vast talent for music and dancing. They're very quick at learning, and would be getting to the very top of the ladder if we once allowed them to climb. But their being black is a convenience, because as long as we are green and they're black, we have a superiority that can never be taken from us. Don't you see now? Oh yes, I see exactly, said the colonel. Now the Keziah Cricket, who just came in here, is quite a musician, and her old father plays the violin beautifully, by the way. We might engage him for our orchestra. And so Miss Katy's ball came off, and the performers kept it from sundown to sunbreak, so that it seemed as if every leaf in the forest were alive. The katydids, the mosquitoes, and the locusts, and the full orchestra of crickets made the air perfectly vibrate, insomuch that old Parson Two-Wit was preaching a Thursday evening lecture to a very small audience, announced to his hearers that he should certainly write a discourse against dancing for the weekly occasion. The good doctor was even with his word in the matter, and gave out some very sonorous discourses, without in the least stopping the round of gaieties kept up by these dissipated katydids, which ran out, night after night, till the celebrated Jack Frost epidemic, which occurred somewhere about the 1st September. Poor Miss Katy, with her flimsy green satin and point lace, was one of the first victims, and fell from the Beau and Company with a sad shower of last year's leaves. The worthy Cricket family, however, avoided Jack Frost by emigrating in time to the chimney corner of a nice little cottage that had been built in the wood that summer. Their good old Mr. and Mrs. Cricket, with sprightly Miss Keziah and her brothers and sisters, found a warm and welcome home. And when the storm howled without and lashed the poor naked trees, the crickets on the warm hearth would chirp out cheery welcome to Papa, and he came in from the snowy path, or Mamma, as she sat in her work basket. Cheep, 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 said Freddie would say. Little Freddie would say. Mamma, who says cheep? Dear Freddie, it's our own little cricket, who loves us and comes to sing to us when the snow is on the ground. So when poor Miss Katy-Did's satin and lace were all swept away, the warm talents of the crickets made themselves a welcome refuge. And that's the end of Miss Katy-Did and Miss Cricket by Harriet Beecher Stowe. I like the story, but I also didn't like the story because it's one of those like dated things. It's one of the things that sounds like it comes out of the mid-19th century, but a lot of ways it's still relevant today because a lot of people. It's obviously an allegory about bigger issues, but people should see less differences from each other than they do, and I wish that people saw themselves more as brothers and sisters rather than antagonizers or rivals or anything like that. I wish we saw each other more as brothers and sisters. I wish we could be friends with everyone, and but I didn't think the story was that good because it sounds very dated. I don't think they would write a story like this today. I mean, they would write a story like this today, but it's just, in some ways it's relevant, timeless, but in some ways it's like really, a lot of the descriptions and references are very dated and out of the vogue. But I wouldn't describe anything like that. I didn't really think the story was very good, but it's just a story. I think it's healthy to read stories. Even if it makes you uncomfortable, it's healthy to read stories like that. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of Miss Katy-Did and Miss Cricket? Please subscribe. I thought it was okay, but it's also kind of weird. It's kind of dated, and I don't think it was politically correct, to be honest, the way they said some things. But I would have written differently if I were to write. Not that I can write stories, but let me know in the comments below, what did you think of the story? Please subscribe to this channel to be part of the community. And please like this video. It really helps the channel out a lot. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.